Welcome back to another episode of Ballers, Beers, and Banter. I'm your host, Dave, here with me, Julio and Jones, Anthony and Moose.
Hello.
What's up? How are you guys doing today?
Are we both Julio Jones?
Well, one of you gets to be... Julio Jones is such a man that one of you gets to be Julio, one of you gets to be Jones. He's he's like two men.
All right.
He's had such a good career. So one of
I
you can
think
claim first name and one of you can claim last name.
I'm just gonna call it as it is. I think you're getting a little lazy with these names.
Oh.
Yeah, I think so.
Fine. Moose.
Taking one name, splitting it into two.
Fine. Moose is Chase Edmonds then.
That's not great.
Yeah, no, too bad. And Anthony's Julio Jones, since Anthony loves to draft Julio Jones.
Maybe not this year.
Why not this year, Anthony?
I mean, injuries are a thing, and I had him in a couple leagues last year, and he burned me.
Wow, that was aggressive. He burned you, is what you said.
I don't want to say that someone on this podcast warned you of that, and you neglected the advice.
Well, one's a dynasty league, couldn't move him. The other one, the redraft. I mean, yeah, you were technically right, but were you not also an owner?
In fact,
of Julio
I was not
Jones?
right on a technicality. I was right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did anyone say it was a?
You did.
He was just right, Anthony. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway,
but I did. You did say it for 2 years, and one of the years I did win.
No, I said 1 year. You said last year, and that's when I told you. I said it's a risk.
The reason we bring up Julio Jones is there are trade rumors abound.
Afoot.
Ooh,
there are shenanigans afoot.
Yeah. Involving Julio Jones. He has quite the monster contract. And the Atlanta Falcons are very deep at receiver and now receiver/tight end with Kyle Pitts. So it looks like it might be difficult for them to keep Matt Ryan and Julio Jones both on the roster. So apparently they're looking to trade him. They're looking to ship him out. And two potential destinations that have been linked to Julio Jones are the New England Patriots and the Tennessee Titans. Have you guys heard anywhere else? Says landing spots? No, I think people are wishing for Green Bay. And then Aaron Rodgers would definitely stay and things would be okay. Anthony's not.
Wasn't DeAndre Hopkins trying to recruit him to come over to
yes.
Cardinals? But
yes.
I mean, it's already crowded over there, so that doesn't really help anyone.
Yeah, I don't know if they need another veteran receiver. Plus, imagine Larry Fitzgerald doesn't retire. He comes back. And I was like, yeah, we got DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald, AJ Green, Julio Jones.
They'd be like the Buccaneers.
They'd be like the Buccaneers, but an all-star cast if it was 4 years ago. Besides Hopkins, still good. Christian Kirk, of course. Rondale Moore, new rookie. So it'd be interesting.
Where would you guys?
It's like the Buccaneers. Where would you guys like to see him go? In general or fantasy football?
Home. Rest.
Oh wow.
I would like to see him not be injured be healthy and live a wonderful life and enjoy the career that he's already had.
Yeah.
Moose talks like as soon as someone has a bit of a dip, Moose is like they're written off in Moose's book. Like Moose is done with Julio Jones. Has he burned you before, Moose?
Bit of a dip. I mean, he's frequently injured.
But the argument,
one of the best receivers,
right? But the argument I had this previous season when you said don't draft him was the season before where I did win in Dynasty, drafting him when people were low on him because of his injuries. He did make it into the top 12 as he usually does. So this was his first big. I mean, I think he had another one due to injury, like a lower season. But I think his age now and being injury prone, I think he's officially should be out as a wide receiver one. And I agree with Moose that redraft. I mean, don't draft him high, and it doesn't matter where he goes.
There's no denying his talent. Like I don't want our listeners to get this wrong here. He's very talented. But, I think some of the younger guys coming up they're going to push him out. Yeah. And, realistically, if he goes to the Patriots, he's working with, maybe Cam Newton, who's not the greatest quarterback, especially when it comes to passing the ball. I don't think he'll be able to work well with it. He'll have to pick up a new playbook, which is historically very difficult to pick up.
I'm just imagining a really heavy playbook. that he physically cannot pick up.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for
Crazy.
Hey, Bill, this is real heavy.
for real football, I mean, it would be better for him to go to Tennessee because they probably have a higher chance of making it to the Super Bowl compared to the Patriots. For fantasy, none of us want Cam Newton throwing the ball to him. And I mean, Tannehill would, I mean, I'd put it maybe a slight bump ahead, like he'd be a slight bump above Matt Ryan. But I mean, like Moose said, it's his health that's the issue. It's not who's getting him the ball, except if it's Cam Newton. But yeah, he just needs to stay on the field and he'll be productive. But I think it's a very big gamble if you take him as your wide receiver one.
So right now in mock drafts, of which I've been participating in several, he's going as late as round 4. Earliest I've seen him is like round 3 for Julio. So, I mean, is that good enough value for Anthony?
Julio for me is a guy that you talk up so that other people in your league take him.
You don't want to have to make that decision.
You don't, because realistically, if we always stick to 2 before, 2 after, the 2 before and 2 after him are probably going to be a better bet.
They might play more. I don't think they'll be better though.
I think in terms of staying on the field and getting you regular points, I think I would rather take them than take Julio Jones for, obviously, if he's on the field, he has great upside, but I'd rather take someone who's going to play the full season. Okay.
Now, where did this, it's like last year, Julio was injured. He missed, he only played in 9 games. And even some of those, he was like a decoy, like he was clearly injured, but just on the field. And then I'm wondering how many of those decoy games must he have had in the past, because I'm looking at his games played, just his overall stats here on Sleeper. And his games played last year, 9, previous years, 15, 16, 16, 14, 16, 15, seemed to play most of the seasons. And then his PPR finishes, like last year was a disaster, obviously, but previously 3, 4, 7, 6, 2, 6, like, wow.
Yeah.
Like he's close to top 5 all the time. So if
that's why the
value
last
year, then it's like,
but people, I think, were a little early on him 2 years ago. Like people were saying what Moose was saying, and that's why I got great value for him in the dynasty. I mean, you don't want him in a dynasty league because he's old and he's injured, but I mean, when you have great value for a guy like this, like if you get him in the 4th, 5th round in some of your drafts, I mean, if he hits, he hits, and if he doesn't, I mean, you're not upset because he's not your wide receiver 1 at that point. So it's all about value with him. Like, where do you get him? You should get him late, or like Moose said, you talk him up so other people in your league draft him way earlier than he should go.
Fair. Just looking at games he did play last year. Last bet on Julio. Week 1, 9 receptions for 157 yards. Week 6, 8 for 137. Week 8, 7 for 137. Week 13, 6 for 94. Oh, week 7, 8 for 97. So when he is on the field, he good.
That's the problem, though. It's the when he's on the field.
Yeah.
When he's not on the field, you don't have, you maybe have to fill someone else in that.
I would prefer
not as good because you picked him too early.
That he just sits when he's hurt. But his issue is that they put him on the field when he's hurt, and he doesn't do anything for you
because he's so durable. It actually bites you in the rear end for a fantasy.
But now
football.
that's an interesting topic with him being a decoy. That must help Calvin Ridley because he's getting the coverage because he's such a big body. And is Calvin Ridley getting open? Because even when Julio is injured, he's on the field and he's drawing the attention. So
then what happens to Calvin if Julio leaves? Like,
guys, we're in the headline section of this podcast, and this feels like
a topic.
We should make it the main topic.
All right, moving on then. Anthony, why don't you, or Moose, why don't you hit us with who was the one who came up with this, or who brought our attention to the Anthony Lynn calling Jamaal Williams a 3-down back?
I don't think it was me, but I can take it from here if you'd like.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah,
so Anthony Lynn came out and called Jamaal Williams an A back, which he considers the 3-down back who can, handle, the entire workload, which is extremely promising for anyone who, felt good about Jamaal Williams. And we spoke about him a bit on this podcast. I still think Jamaal Williams is a good late round running back to pick up. And then I think, Dave, you said that later he came out and said, oh, and by the way, DeAndre Swift is also good.
Yeah, I think probably there was some reaction to that. Like, what about DeAndre Swift? Like our first round draft pick or second round draft pick from last year. And so he came out and said, DeAndre is very, very good. Like he came out and said he's very capable. So, but Anthony Lynn is a guy who loves the running game.
Mm-hmm. He was running back himself.
He's running back himself. And that's his forte. And with the Chargers had, several successful running backs. And Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler likes to use running backs. So I think it's good for both DeAndre Swift and Jamaal Williams. I was already pretty big on Jamaal Williams just on his landing spot and how good he was at Green Bay. On that episode, we talked about him. And if you figure DeAndre Swift will cost you in redraft, off the top of my head, I think he's around three target, I think, DeAndre Swift. Yeah. So would you rather have DeAndre Swift in round 3 or Jamaal Williams in like round 8?
Well, picture this. What if Anthony Lynn creates a scenario of Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler with Jamaal Williams and DeAndre Swift?
Jamaal would be more of the Melvin Gordon guy.
Yes.
He would be, yeah.
So it could be interesting.
Could be very interesting.
The value for Jamaal Williams, I'd rather have the value of Jamaal Williams over Swift.
Yeah.
Of the sophomores, he's not my favorite sophomore. DeAndre Swift, also his team situation, but I think I would go for Jamaal Williams.
But you got to think, too, that with, of course, his name escapes me. It shouldn't, but it escapes me.
The head coach?
No, their quarterback.
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff. There we go. I've already forgotten.
It should not escape you, Moose.
He's already so irrelevant in my mind that I forgot about him. But I mean, Jared Goff's passing has declined, I would say, even on an offense that had a lot of receiving options. So now he goes to Detroit where the receiving options are next to nobody.
Yes.
You would imagine that run game is going to be used a lot.
Yes.
So if he's saying, Jamaal Williams is an 8 back,
I'm thinking write that down.
Write it down.
Write it down.
All right, Moose, this is getting a little too much into a main topic, so I'll ask you to introduce the last headline.
Thank you for cutting me off.
Turn your brain back gone because it was Goff and hit us with the third headline.
I'm supposed to do this? I have no idea. I didn't even know I was doing the second one.
Chase Edmonds one. Chase Edmonds came out and said...
Yes, Chase Edmonds came out and said that he's excited about the opportunity to potentially be the lead back in Arizona. And he's going to do his hardest. He's going to work his hardest.
He's going to do his hardest. He's going to do his hardest.
To take over that role, which to me makes it sound like he's not confident that he will be the starting back, and that James Conner, is posing more of a threat to be that, starting.
And I read that as personally, I just read that as any other player who always comes out and says, "Got to compete for that number 1 job," or "This is my opportunity," or "This is my shot." Like it's a guy he hasn't been the number 1, right? And no, he's not the talent of of a big time 3-down back. So. Yeah, he should be coming out and saying that. But I don't think he's not confident to get it. Anthony, what's your input?
I mean, I don't think he's not confident either. I think it's something you have to say, or, I mean, when you get a guy in like James Conner, who was supposed to be or has been a number 1 guy on another team on the Pittsburgh Steelers, when you bring him in, obviously it was probably a surprise to Chase Edmonds. First off, because when the coach is coming out saying that Chase Edmonds could be our number 1 running back and they bring this guy in, I mean, I think that alone is an issue and maybe will kill his confidence a little bit. So he's probably, I think maybe he's worried a little bit that he might not get the starting job. But
that's the thing. I'm sure Chase Edmonds is very confident in himself. I'm sure he's very capable. We've seen him very capable. But I don't know. I feel like when there was a lot of debate between people saying, nope, it's clearly James Conner. Nope, it's clearly Chase Edmonds. And then Chase Edmonds says something like this. It kind of sounds like Chase Edmonds not sure if he's the number 1.
Well, I'm sure it'll be a competition at camp. And I'm sure whoever wins the starting job, the other guy will still be used quite a bit. I think
especially
they're both,
with the injury history
Yes.
of James Conner.
like James Conner has the talent to be a 3-down guy, but probably not the durability anymore. And Chase Edmonds, maybe we don't know if he could be a 3-down back. But so remains to be seen. Who would you rather have? Who would you rather draft and redraft? Let's say it's the same spot.
Chase Edmonds.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. I
Me too.
haven't trusted
Well,
James
it'd
Conner.
be super late though. Like
Yeah.
super late. I'd take James Conner.
Yeah. James Conner's still going fairly early. Like his name still, I guess, keeps his draft stock fairly high. So he's going like higher than Chase Edmonds.
So that's an interesting question then, because
Yeah.
if we're talking like 2-for-1 pizza, you got to pay for the more expensive pizza. So when we say draft position, Chase Edmonds probably going a bit lower than James Conner. So
Yeah.
So whose position are we talking about? Are we talking about taking Chase Edmonds at the James Conner, or are we talking about taking the James Conner at the Chase Edmonds?
When I originally asked my question, it was either
the same round.
They're in the same spot. Who would you rather have?
Well, because I would imagine Chase Edmonds going later, so I would rather take James Conner at that late position.
Okay. If he's available. I see what you're saying. Yep.
But I wouldn't want to take Chase Edmonds at the early James Conner position.
No, exactly.
No, I wouldn't want to take either of them at the early spot.
But if they're going in the same round, Chase Edmonds.
Yeah.
Now James Conner's probably going slightly ahead of Chase Edmonds in drafts. I would imagine. I can't remember from my mock drafts if that's true, but I assume Chase Edmonds is going later, so I would rather have Chase Edmonds. I feel like Chase Edmonds is the Jamaal Williams of this team. So I'm going to go with the later value.
Realistically, I think they honestly took James Conner to smash it in at the goal line so Kyler doesn't have to.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Kyler Murray was usually scoring his scampers were like 25-yard runs. Like they're not using him in the Cam Newton role of like, we're on the goal line, put your head down and go.
Yeah. I just don't think they want him to take any more hits after last season.
Certainly. Yeah, for sure. They want to limit that. All right, guys, that's enough for the headlines. Let's move into the main subject of the day. We're continuing our rookie reviews. These have been an absolute blast. A lot of our fantasy listeners out there don't know a lot about rookies coming into the league. That's what we're here for, to provide you with all the information you need for redraft. So today we're continuing with our wide receivers. We're going to be going over Devonta Smith and Kadarius Toney. So to start out, I will lead us to the promised land here with Devonta Smith. Just to give you a little background on Devonta, he was a first-round draft pick, 10th overall by the Philadelphia Eagles, who originally had the 6th overall pick, traded back with Miami, and then during the draft traded back up to skip ahead of the Giants and take Devonta Smith. Obviously, the Eagles' huge need at wide receiver. Now, the knock on Devonta Smith, guys, is his size. He's 6 feet tall, but he's somewhere around 165 to maybe 170 pounds. I've seen him listed at
tiny.
one. He's skinny. So like he's actually skinny. He's, looks
He's smaller than I am.
Slender. Yeah. He looks slender. But you know what they say, guys? It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the can one of you? No? Okay.
No.
It's the size of the fight in the dog. Yeah, which is the beer I'm having today, which we'll go over later. Size of the fight in the dog. That's for Devonta.
Why would we say your beer?
Well, I wanted you to finish the expression. Pretty common expression. Yeah.
No, I know.
I don't think it's that common. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
That's the first time you've ever heard it's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog?
Yes.
I've heard that, but
what?
But you were introducing your beer, so I figured you were going to say it's not my beer.
Yeah, but hold on. Scale it back. Anthony, you've heard that expression before,
Yes,
right?
I have.
Okay. Moose, this the first time you've heard it?
Yeah.
Wow. Write it down. I can't believe that's the first time I've heard that expression. It's
Write it
like
down.
pretty common. Anyways, so Devonta's got quite a fight in him. Also, it's worth noting that he has huge wingspan. So he's only 6 feet tall, but he has a wingspan of what would be 6'5". So 78 and a half.
It's not the size of the bird. It's the size of the wingspan.
There you go. So it makes his catch radius pretty big. Okay, college history. Devonta had a phenomenal college career, including a Heisman Trophy winning, Biletnikoff Trophy winning, which is awarded to the top overall college player and top wide receiver in college, respectively. Senior season, where he had 117 receptions, 1,856 yards, 23 receiving touchdowns, and he averaged a return yardage of 21.5 with a return TD. So he can also return kicks. His career stats, 235 receptions, close to 4,000 yards, 46 touchdowns. What do we know about Devonta? He gets insane separation from defenders, runs excellent routes. He's extremely fast. He's elusive in the open field. We already talked about the knock on him is his size. Very, very skinny. Marquise Brown, you liken Jalen Waddle to Marquise Brown. I think this is maybe even more of a Marquise Brown comparison because of the height / weight. So he is fairly tall or average height, but very slender. Probably a little more talented than Marquise Brown, but similar in that size bracket. So because he's got that lanky build, he's going to have to be smart. I think he's going to have to be smart in and out of contact, and he's going to have trouble blocking, and he might have trouble with press coverage. So he's going to need a scheme that works for him. He's going to have to be schemed to be in the slot or not in press coverage. Interesting to note, when Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, and Henry Ruggs, Roman numeral 3, the quad crazy receiving core that Bama had in 2019, when they were all together, Smith was statistically the best among them, with more yards per catch, and more TDs than even Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy had a couple more receptions, though. Okay, so that's his college history. Any comments on that?
Nope, pretty straightforward.
Okay. So, situation. He is stepping. This is the first line I have in our Google Doc with situation. The Eagles are terrible.
Yeah, I know. I was laughing at that before.
We expect them to continue to be terrible. So I don't know.
Do we actually expect them to be terrible?
Yeah, I expect them to
I think they're the worst team in the division.
And it's the worst division in football. So like teams that will be worse than the Eagles, the Jets, the Texans. I think that's it. That's the list. The Eagles are going to struggle. They had holes to fill everywhere.
I think Atlanta will be pretty bad too.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. So, but a lot remains to be seen. So here's the big what ifs with Philadelphia is that they have so many, and I forget where in the section I wrote this, but they have so many rookies in key positions. Their head coach is a rookie for the first time, Nick Sirianni. Their wide receiver 1, which we think is Devonta Smith, is a rookie. Their wide receiver 2 or 1, Jalen Reagor, is essentially a rookie. Only played a handful of games last year. Maybe a starting offensive guard, Landon Dickerson, who's coming off knee surgery from Alabama, is a rookie. And Jalen Hurts is essentially a rookie at quarterback, right? He played 4 or 5 games last year. So it's a handful of rookies in very key positions: quarterback, wide receivers, O-line, offensive, or head coach. So mistakes are going to be made.
Well, and hold on real quick. Real quick. Just because you're bringing up rookies, so it's important to note this. Jalen Hurts has not been named the starting quarterback. They do have a veteran quarterback.
Okay, so if Joe Flacco's starting, you can really hit the panic button for the Philadelphia Eagles, because that means Jalen Hurts was not good and Flacco's even worse. He would be an even worse option than Flacco, right? Which is not good. So when they go up against a solid, experienced defense, I would expect them to struggle. So they do play like the Bucs and the 49ers this year. You know, I have Jalen Hurts in Dynasty. Probably not excited to start him against those options. If I had Devonta Smith, wouldn't be super excited to have him going up against the Bucs DBs. So that's what I got. Now, what's interesting is that Devonta Smith and Jalen Hurts played together at Alabama in Devonta Smith's freshman season. So Jalen Hurts later transferred to Oklahoma. So he wasn't at Bama for long with Devonta Smith, but while they were together, they connected in-game for 12 receptions, 207 yards, and 2 TDs. Small numbers because most of the balls were going to Calvin Ridley at that time. But still, they do have that little bit of a connection. They do like each other. They are friends, which is pretty cool. And Jalen Hurts was there day one to greet Devonta Smith in Philly. So that's their situation. Lot up in the air.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Lots up in the air.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we see it similarly.
That's
All right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think definitely for redraft, you're not drafting it.
Oh, okay. Well, so that's Moose's take. The last things I'll mention, coaching, and we already talked about it a little bit, but Nick Sirianni, I mean, we'll see. Like, people were not impressed with him coming out and saying that he did rock, paper, and scissors with potential draftees over Zoom in their interviews to gauge their competitiveness. He took a lot of heat for that and got made fun of for that. And he's got a bit of a quirky nature. He doesn't come across super, I don't know what you would say, professional or polished in his press conferences, but remains to be seen. He does have a lot of experience. His career has been attached to Frank Reich, so he started with him at the Chargers, where Nick Sirianni coached wide receivers, and then he was with the Colts. So when Frank Reich got to the Colts, he said to the GM Chris Ballard, "We got to get Nick Sirianni. We got to get him here, get him on the staff," which is pretty cool because Frank Reich knows what he's doing. Chris Ballard knows what he's doing. That's a really good organization. So the fact that they wanted him, I think that's a good sign. He spent 3 seasons as the Colts offensive coordinator. The Colts ranked 6th in third down conversions during that time, 7th in red zone TD efficiency, and 8th in points per game, and had the 2nd fewest sacks. Now, you could say that that's Frank Reich. You could say it's Nick Sirianni, a little bit of both. Who knows? Frank Reich did call the plays for the Colts, so that's worth mentioning. But over that time, the Colts had Andrew Luck for 1 season, Jacoby Brissett for another, Phillip Rivers for the 3rd. So it's a pretty
Is
mixed
this another Adam Gase type situation where he's living off of the success of another person on a team?
Well, I think that would be Frank Reich, not necessarily the quarterbacks, because of the array that they had.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah. So that's the coaching situation. And it remains to be seen who's calling the plays for the Eagles. That's going to be something that's going to be of interest to me. In terms of their division, the Eagles play in the NFC least. It's often referred to because it is the NFC East, and it is the worst division in football. Of course, the Washingtons made the playoffs with a 7-9 record, winning that division last year.
Washington's
Roman numeral 2. Roman numeral 2, yeah. But that means that the Eagles get to play the Cowboys twice, the Giants, Washington twice, and they have what appears to be one of the easier schedules in football. They also have the Jets, the Broncos, the Panthers, the Saints, the Raiders, the Falcons on their schedule. So I imagine a lot of those games to be shootouts. Like, can you imagine like Panthers, Eagles, and Falcons, Eagles, Raiders, Eagles? Like, those are going to be shootouts, I would imagine. And garbage time points count for points, gentlemen. So
right.
Team strength. The Eagles don't have a real strength. It'll depend, I think, a lot on Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts can be good, and what we saw in his 4 games last year, he was excellent. So
the Eagles do have a strength.
Oh, what is it?
It's not developing rookie wide receivers.
Yes, they have. Well, either not developing them or completely missing the draft. Like, when the fact that Devonta was drafted, it was almost like, go to the next pick, which we'll talk about in a bit, and that guy's going to be good, because they passed up on Justin Jefferson famously in the previous draft to draft, was it Arcega-Whiteside? No, Jalen Reagor.
Right. Yeah, Reagor. Right.
And it looks like that was a mistake so far based on the sample size we've seen. And then the previous year was Arcega-Whiteside instead of, well, a lot of people passed on DK Metcalf, but Eagles included. So those weren't good. But let's hope they've bucked that trend with Devonta Smith. Now, in terms of opportunity, guys, here's the big one. There's nothing but opportunity for Devonta Smith here. I think he's the most talented receiver and the most talented offensive weapon on the team outside of Jalen Hurts. And it's basically Devonta Smith, Jalen Reagor, tight end Dallas Goedert, who are going to be catching the passes. Could be a good little receiving team. And then Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell in the backfield, who we talked about a couple episodes ago. So he's got a clear pathway to being a wide receiver 1. And I don't think as fantasy players we can turn our nose up and be like, it's the Eagles, or So to me, Devonta Smith should absolutely be drafted in redraft. It's a question of where, but you can't turn down a potential wide receiver 1 on any team. And if Jalen Hurts does pan out, then that could be a huge connection. So to me, Devonta Smith is worth a late round flyer for sure. And right now he's going like rounds 10 plus.
I'll give you that. Previously, I said I wouldn't draft him, but at most, I'd give him a late round flyer.
Okay.
And because I know we had quite a dispute about this a couple episodes ago. Thought about it a bit, and here's how I'll highlight it. For me, like the late round flyer, like I would consider that my week 1 waiver wire. Like that's my early like waiver wire prediction. So getting ahead of the trend is how I would see that last round pick. So yeah, in this case, for sure, I would take a flyer on him to be, maybe by week 3 he turns out to be that, he's the weapon, he's the guy, and they start lighting him up.
Now, how long would you sit on that, Moose? Because I don't know, let's say you're in a competitive league with your friends, you have a podcast that you started last year, and you were wise enough to draft Justin Jefferson with one of your late round picks, but he played, I don't know, really bad the first game, saw like 0 targets, and you dropped him. And then, someone else in the league picked him up, and they ended up being one of the best receivers in the league. Hypothetical scenario.
This guy picked him up.
We're talking about me. I dropped Justin Jefferson. How long would you hold on to him?
We're always talking about value and where to get guys in the draft. And so you have to consider that, like if you have a wallet full of draft coins, how many coins did you spend to get that guy? And then if you feel like that's what you're willing to throw away to somebody else later on, then that's what you've thrown away. So if you're drafting one of these rookies, higher in the draft, I mean, I think you should be telling yourself that you believe in this person, and just because he had a couple of bad games as a rookie in his first year in the season, that you got to hang on to him. You got to believe in him because you paid for him. So that's how I see it. Is like we've spoken before, I took Cam Akers real early because I thought he was valuable, and I hung on to him, and he ended up being valuable to me. So that's my answer. Is if you spend, I'd keep.
Okay. Well, it makes me feel a little bit better because I think he was like my last pick in the draft last year. How did I even get him in redraft last pick, Jefferson? But Moose, you brought up rookie coins. Huge idea. Write it down. Could start the new cryptocurrency for fantasy football players only, called rookie coins. Just be a picture of Moose's face and be like, rookie coin.
Rookie coins.
Anthony, your thoughts on Devonta and where you draft him, etc.?
My gut. Same as Moose, last round flyer. Like a player like him, round 1, 10th pick, could be the number 1 on a terrible Philadelphia team where you said they'll have shootouts because they have no choice to just huck the ball down the field. I mean, he's a guy that I would like to have on my team and hold on to because I think he could be very beneficial down the line or on to cover for an injury, because you get that game against a Vegas or a similar team like that could be very valuable.
Yeah.
So yeah, late round flyer.
Okay. And just to scale back to last episode, if our listeners haven't checked it out, we talked about Ja'Marr Chase and Jalen Waddle. Now to throw those two back into the mix, how do we rank those 3 rookies, Chase, Waddle, and Devonta Smith, for redraft?
Exactly as you just said it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I think, to me, Smith's closer. Like Ja'Marr Chase is clearly the number 1. He's going like that in drafts. But to me, Smith's closer to Waddle because of opportunity. And team. Like I actually have more faith in Jalen Hurts for fantasy than I do Tua at the moment. So I would probably put Devonta ahead.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, at the moment. We'll see what pans out. Tua could light it up this year, but we'll see. Okay, enough on Devonta?
Sure.
All right. Well, we're going to move into Kadarius Toney. Hey, Tony. Moose.
Tony.
Tell us all about Tony.
All right. Kadarius Toney was taken in round 1 at the number 20th position overall to the New York Giants. He's 5'11".
Fit.
I forgot we were doing the 5'11".
Yeah. He weighs in at 193 pounds. He did his 40-yard dash. He was a 4.43, so very fast.
Speedy.
very speedy. Vertical 40 inches. I have no college history. I didn't write anything down.
I thought we had a bunch.
No.
I realized I forgot Devonta Smith is 40-yard dash time, guys. I apologize, but he quick.
But I know that he, off the top of my head, Kadarius Toney had something like 943 yards and 10 touchdowns last season, and 160 roughly rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown. So not bad, pretty good.
Pretty good.
Moving into the situation, so for me, I'm not super hyped about the situation. The Giants are poised to have a better year than last year. The receiving core got a little bit of a boost. They got Kenny Golladay. They already had Darius Slayton. However, they also got what we'll call a second tier cast of people: John Ross, Sterling Shepard, Dante Pettis.
Don't forget Dante Pettis.
Dante Pettis. We'll never forget. I'm telling you, he's going to get at least a touchdown.
At least. You heard it here first.
He got one last season.
Did he?
He did.
Okay.
He did.
Good on him.
They squeaked him in there for a touchdown.
He's the only one that's paying attention to Pettis, so I'll take his word for it.
Pettis, yeah.
They squeaked Dante Pettis in there for a touchdown. However, I think that this opens a lot of opportunity for Kadarius Toney, as a third wide receiver, and potentially moving up should there be any unfortunate injuries to Darius Slayton or Kenny G. But doesn't really put him in a situation where you'd want to draft him because he's got a few people ahead of him. For coaching, we have Joe Judge entering his second year with the Giants, formerly with the Patriots, where he was special teams coordinator and a wide receiver coach. Jason Garrett, former Dallas Cowboys head coach, is the offensive coordinator for the Giants and will be calling the plays. We have for our division/schedule, same as the Eagles, fairly easy schedule. However, I don't really think this plays much in for Kadarius Toney because I don't honestly think he'll be. I don't know. I don't think he'll have a lot of starting opportunities to even really face.
Really?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, listen. Here's the only thing. I mean, everything you've said is spot on. Are you listening?
Yeah, we're listening.
I'm listening.
Okay. All the people you mentioned, there's a whole boatload of people that he's got to surpass to be on the depth chart.
Yeah.
But they're all not very good. Like Dante Pettis, sorry, Moose, not a good receiver. John Ross, Roman numeral 3, he's had his chances. He's super fast. Sure. Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, you said it yourself, tier 2 receivers. Evan Ingram can't catch a ball. Kyle Rudolph, not a superstar. And there's Kenny Golladay. So, I mean, do we not see a clear path for Toney to be like the second receiver on what could be a decent offense?
Well, I think Darius Slayton is the second receiver.
Really? Why not Sterling Shepard?
No, that's the only part I disagreed about the situation. I think Shepard is the 2 and was the 1 last year, but he can't stay healthy, which has put Slayton into the 2 category because he's been on the field more and has the upside of getting that production because the ball has to go somewhere. But now with the crowded backfield, I think it's, again, I think signing these tight ends is trying to light a fire under Ingram's butt. So I think it's Golladay. I think it's Shepard. I think if Shepard's healthy, it's Shepard number 2, Slayton, then it's Ingram, and then it's everyone else. And I think maybe after Ingram, it's Toney. So as far as just receivers, I think he's wide receiver 4 as depth chart, as far as the depth chart will be now.
And that's just receivers.
And that's just receivers, right?
If we start factoring all offensive snaps, now you got Saquon.
We should probably factor him in.
and the big question mark of Raquel Armstead, who was supposed to be a starting running back, is now a backup. So this could be a lot of interesting things coming out of the Giants camp. It'll be interesting. But in my opinion, I don't think he's worth a late round draft pick, but potentially someone that you would earmark for waiver wire.
Yes.
For sure. You should keep your ear to the ground on him to pick up on waivers because he could come through should all these other guys not pan out. But, the Giants kind of picked them up for experimental roles or whatever to see how they pan out. And, guys I'm not trying to say that Dante Pettis, John Ross are the next greatest things on earth, but they have both been very talented in the opportunities that they've been given, and they've shown flashes. So maybe it was the teams they were on. Dante Pettis had a lot of attitude issues, and I think that's why he, didn't succeed in San Francisco, along with, I think he had a couple of shoulder injuries. John Ross had a couple injuries, and right out of the gate, he had a forced fumble that any receiver in the league would have fumbled the ball, and they just benched him.
Moose, quit coddling Dante Pettis, would you? Come on, man.
No, I was talking about John Ross there. And he was just benched, never given an opportunity again.
Yes.
And then had a couple of injuries and nothing. So,
and I mean, we're forgetting the most important receiver on the team, Kelvin Benjamin.
Yes,
of course. So these guys, yes, they haven't had the most illustrious of careers, but they were supposed to be very talented. So there's no reason why they wouldn't or couldn't shine in new environments.
I agree 100%. Now, why would the Giants spend a first-round draft pick though on a wide receiver?
So I have the perfect explanation.
But okay, hold on. Let's get one thing straight here. We're talking about next season. We're not talking about dynasty. So I'm saying in this season coming up,
Giants.
In this season coming up, I don't think Kadarius Toney is going to be. I don't think he's a fantasy asset in years to come. Very possible, for sure.
Now, to explain their pick, so obviously, I don't know. I think as a Bears fan, I have to thank Philadelphia for drafting
Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith, because it caused the Giants to trade down and trade their pick to the Bears. They took the Bears pick, and the Bears took Justin Fields. Yep. So, I mean, you guys are going to think I'm making an excuse here. So, for our keeper league in fantasy, with the craziness we've talked about on the podcast our first season of the podcast, that I was taken for quite the surprise and a loop when the way the draft was going. And we tell people not to get flustered at drafts. I was flustered. I'm telling you, I was flustered.
Just vexed.
I was vexed. I was upset with the amount of QBs like one team would take and all the other picks. So yeah. I think I failed. I think I had the worst draft that season, even though I wasn't last place in the league. But I thought I had the worst draft, and I think the Giants panicked. They didn't get the receiver they wanted. They traded down, and they still took a receiver anyways. I think they should have tried to upgrade at another position, because look at all the signings after the draft too. Like, they're signing Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, I think that John Ross and Dante Pettis, was Dante Pettis there last year? I'm not even sure. Yeah,
so he scored a touchdown.
I mean, with all, yeah, that's right. So all the receivers on the team, I mean, to just draft a guy now, I mean, if you didn't get the guy you wanted, you should have tried to upgrade at another position. So, I don't know. I think they panicked.
I mean, they did get, by trading down, they did earn themselves more picks, right? Next year.
Right.
I forget what exactly they got. I think did they maybe even get a first round next year? Forget. You can check that out. You're the Bears fan. You know what they must have given up for Fields. I
don't care.
You should have it written down. You should have it written down. But anyways, so I agree with you. And some people even thought, Rashad Bateman was probably a better receiver than Kadarius Toney. Who knows? But Toney, he looks good on film, and he was part of the 1-2 punch with Kyle Pitts in Florida, with Kyle Trask throwing the ball. Kyle Trask, not like an exceptional thrower of the football, but Toney was pretty good for yards after the catch as well. So remains to be seen. But I agree with you guys that I think you can wait and see. Listen to what's coming out of Giants camp. We'll keep you up to date about what's coming. So listen to our podcast, and we'll keep you up to date what's happening in camps. And then probably you're safe with him going undrafted in your home leagues for redraft, and then you can see what happens week 1.
All right. So the Bears. Also they sent their 20th pick, their 164th pick, and their first round pick of 2022.
Yeah. So that's why the Giants, it was a good deal for the Giants. But then they took
it was the 11th for the 20th, and then their 164th pick, and the first round next year.
Awesome. Also, Devonta Smith, 40-yard dash, 4.49, supposedly. Speaking of 40-yard dashes, way off topic. Excuse me, more. But did you see the four-way virtual showdown between McCole Hardman, Henry Ruggs, Roman numeral 3, Devin White, and Justin Jefferson?
No, I bookmarked it to watch later, and then I never watched it.
So it was done by Bleacher Report, I think.
Yep.
Okay. And like they weren't racing each other. They were literally racing virtually. They're all on their own fields. And they had, I don't know what kind of setup they had. I think it was stopwatch for everyone. So not super accurate. And really, if we think stopwatch timing, guys, as someone who uses a stopwatch every day, it's really easy to be off by a 10th. Which in my world is not that big of a deal, but I'm talking about 40-yard time, big difference between 4.3 and 4.4. So anyways, take it for what it's worth. But the times came in as McCole Hardman overall winner with 4.22 40-yard dash, which is crazy fast. Henry Ruggs, Roman numeral 3, 4.26, still crazy fast. Devin White, the linebacker for the Tampa Bay Bucks at 4.36 or something like that.
Oh,
absurd for a man of his size and strength. And then Justin Jefferson at 4.5. The poor guy pulling up the rear is like, really? But we know how good he is on the field. Anyways, thought that was really good. So the 40 times not.
That's the thing. I think people, Tyreek Hill really made speed like a big thing that people think is super important. Like if they think that if you can run faster than Tyreek Hill, you automatically become the best wide receiver. But it's not the case.
No, it's really football. It's playing football, and as a receiver, catching the ball, and reaction time, quickness, lateral movements. Like there's so many things that factor in, and everyone knows there's a difference between game speed and 40 speed.
Yeah,
we all know that. Okay. Anything else on Kadarius?
No, I think that's it.
Are we safe to put him fourth amongst all the receivers that we've talked about so far, being Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, and Kadarius Toney? Okay.
Yes.
All right. And there's one more receivers episode coming up where we will talk about Rashad Bateman and Elijah Moore, two other highly touted draft picks. So stay tuned next week. But I think it's time for us to move on to the next segment. Or do I just go into the next segment? Go into it?
I think, well, now you've made it awkward. So I think you should say something and then try it again.
Okay. So we are introducing a new segment similar to our They Said It on Reddit segment. We are going to dive into the Twitterverse and try to reach out to some fantasy footballers via Twitter in a segment that we're calling It's a Hard Hitter from Twitter. All right, who's got it? That was just fantastic.
I don't have it. I want you guys to generate it.
I'll
Goodness.
Pull it up. Oh, are you going to pull it up?
I'll drum it up. From Fantasy Sports Radio on Twitter. Which running back would you rather draft for #fantasy football this season? Joe Mixon, Miles Sanders, J.K. Dobbins, or Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Which fantasy running back would you rather draft this season?
I'm taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I'm taking J.K. Dobbins.
And I also go J.K. Dobbins. Okay, before we talk about why we picked those guys, why not Miles Sanders? Maybe listeners should listen to our Kenneth Gainwell episode from two episodes ago.
Well, or as the wise Dave once put on a Google doc, the Eagles are terrible.
I mean, Miles Sanders, he's talented, but I would rather take Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Miles Sanders.
Yeah. Injuries, Eagles. Yeah.
To me, he's the bottom of that list.
Yeah, he's for sure the bottom of the list for me. Joe Mixon, at one point was J.K. Dobbins is now leading the poll on Twitter, 266 votes in. But Joe Mixon at one point was leading. So why are we shying away from Joe Mixon?
It's that front line in Cincinnati. It's just not fair to Joe Mixon.
Right.
If that front line was a little more solid, it'd be Joe Mixon all day.
Yeah.
But
he's the type of guy, he'll be frustrating to have on your team because he's super talented. I know he's had some injury issues, but Moose is right. It's the front line. And I mean, if he drops, I mean, I'll probably take him for like value purposes because he is super talented. And we're hoping that the O-line is slightly better because we want to see Joe Burrow succeed and the receivers succeed and Mixon succeed. So, I mean, if he drops, I'll take him. But right now, over these guys,
what would be dropping for you? Like right now he's going to the end of the first round in mocks.
Yeah, I mean, like
that's way too high for me. In my
third
opinion.
round, fourth round,
third or fourth for Mixon. Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, I imagine some of these rookies are going to be valued higher as the offseason continues, like during camps and everything. They'll be up in value compared to where they're being drafted now. I know some are going really high, but I think everything will shift. I think Mixon might drop because he'll be the odd man out of, you know, like when people do their own, like, would you rather? So I think he'll drop a little bit. So third round, I mean, I take him as an RB2, but I mean, I would rather have somebody else at the moment.
I agree with you guys 100%. I don't really want Joe Mixon. But like, I get it if you want to take him. Like
he was going end of the first last year. So it's like,
but what's the difference? What's the only difference between last year and this year till now? He had an injury.
But I mean, he was higher the year before. I believe he was earlier in the first round. He was at the end of the first round last year. He was worse than people thought. So, I mean, he should drop more. He should at least drop to the second round, like mid-second round. But I think
there's just some of the rookies from last season.
Yeah.
Are ahead of him now.
Yeah. He did. I remember he did struggle in the first few games, right? He wasn't getting a lot of touches, a lot of yards. And then he had that one breakout game, week 4, 39 points.
And then he broke his foot.
PPR, 151 yards
or something.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he hurt himself. Yeah, I don't know. Not super high on him. Okay. And then Moose, why Clyde Edwards-Helaire over J.K. Dobbins?
For me, like J.K. Dobbins, super talented. He's probably going to have a good season, but I always find that sharing the running back room with Lamar Jackson, it's just, for me, I just feel like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the running back. He's going to get the running plays. I just high-powered offense. I mean, they're both on high-powered offenses, I guess. It looks like Baltimore wants to expand their passing game. They made that very clear. Not that, J.K. Dobbins probably won't get his fill, but I just think in terms of if I was making the decision on the spot right now and I had to think, okay, who's probably going to net me the most fantasy points as a running back, I'm going Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Okay. And I think there's definitely a case to be made there. Probably less competition for Clyde Edwards-Helaire with Darrell Williams as the only other guy. And then, you're right. Lamar Jackson does run the ball a lot in Baltimore. And there's Gus Edwards and Justice Hill to compete with for touches. But there is some stats to show that a running quarterback actually opens things up for the run game and for running backs, and especially if you're concentrated on Lamar and J.K. Dobbins slips out and just is open for a little dump off. To me, the big difference between J.K. Dobbins and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is, and it's a small sample size in the games they played last year, is red zone. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire struggled to get into the end zone whether it was goal line plays or red zone plays, whereas J.K. Dobbins walked into the end zone last year. He had a couple of 2 touchdown games, and he had a stretch from week 13 to week 17 where he scored every game, J.K. So I think if J.K. Dobbins' touches increase and his red zone production stays the same, he is going to be a monster. But I don't think you can go wrong either way. Honestly,
yeah, no, they're both great options. Just what concerns me. So, like, let's just talk about it a little bit here. So, you were saying that a running quarterback opens it up for a dump off, but Lamar Jackson doesn't do that. So that's what concerns me, is that unless J.K. Dobbins is getting those like goal line touches, like Lamar Jackson doesn't dump it off to his running back all that much. He just
But
runs
he
it.
did when he did 2 years ago in his best season with Ingram. Ingram had his best receiving.
And it's also, it's more, I would say more, sorry, Anthony, cut you off. It's more like a design. It's also designed run throws.
Yeah.
If you're doing, like, a lot of the times the defense will do a QB spy when you're defending Lamar. So one of your linebackers is just mirroring Lamar Jackson in case he runs and not covering the running back out of the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah. Anthony, I cut you off. What were you saying?
But this is why Baltimore's, it's a little bit of a question mark though, because 2 years ago, their wide receivers weren't that great. Now they've acquired wide receivers.
That's true. That's true.
So it's hard to say, well, 2 years ago this worked. No. Because now it's a whole new team. They've got a young running back. They've got Lamar Jackson, who has a few more years of experience under his belt. They've got a veteran wide receiver. I guess you could argue that Marquise Brown is also a veteran wide receiver at this point.
3 years, yeah.
and some new young guys.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a new team. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But like you said, Dave, I don't think you can go wrong either way.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, that was fun for our first hard hitter on Twitter segment. I love it. All right. Beer, guys. What have you been drinking? Hey, Moose, I got my shot today. Got my first dose of the vaccine.
Listen, how do you feel?
Well, I was contacted by aliens. Through my mind, they spoke to me.
How's your 5G?
Do you feel the the chip in your arm?
6G.
6G. Yeah.
Do you feel it? Is it hidden?
I don't feel much, but my cell phone's getting tremendous reception.
Oh,
good.
Tremendous reception. So that's what counts. It's transmitting.
I mean, for
so.
fantasy, that's amazing.
Bonus. No, we kid, of course. No, I'm totally fine. Feel great. Arm's not even that sore yet. I'm sure I'll feel a bit tomorrow, but no, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling pretty excited, guys. I recently heard that Canada now has not that it's a contest or anything, but it's good for Canada-U.S. relations and maybe the border opening up. We now have caught up to the U.S. and I think passed them in terms of percentage of the population that has received the first dose of the vaccine.
Awesome.
Correct.
Where we were way behind. So it's good. It's good news, man. Who knows? Maybe I'll get to see you guys. Maybe we'll be recording a podcast live in August. Maybe we'll be drafting live together.
That would be exciting.
In Moose's new house.
Basement.
Together.
This man cave.
Let's get back to beers.
No Heineken.
Ooh,
no Heineken. I don't know if my camera's focusing, but it's called a McTavish.
Yeah, I see it.
You see it?
Classic.
In focus, out of focus.
Is that Scottish, Moose?
No, I don't think so. It's
Is there a samurai on the label?
No, it actually looks. Well, I'm assuming. I guess it's supposed to be like a medieval Scotsman or something. I don't know if. I can't.
That would make sense.
But he's got a sword, and it looks like he's fighting demons. And
aren't we all?
It's called. It's a legendary ale, and it's from Le Trou de Diable. I think we've had those before here.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah,
a legendary ale for our legendary host.
Yeah, it won a World Beer Award.
Oh.
Like worlds
of worlds.
We're talking playoffs. That's tremendous, Moose.
Dave, what are the things you normally read off the bottle so I can 5% alcohol?
Yeah, ABV. Does it say ABV?
600 milliliters.
No, we don't usually read that off the label, you goon.
It's from Shawinigan, Quebec.
We know that well. We know Shawinigan well. I'm just impressed it won a World Beer Award. That's super cool. I'd like to go to I'd like to be a judge at the World Beer Awards. Can we organize that, guys?
Dave, we can
just attend.
We can just start our own.
Yeah.
World Beer Awards. People will come and be judges for us.
Moose, I'm not sure how interested they'll be in beers number 1 through 50 from your Heineken 50 case, but we can try. Be like, this Heineken a little different than a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
Listen, I pity the man who shakes a stick at 50 free beers.
Yeah, 50 free beers?
Well, yeah, if he's got to taste test all 50 beers, I mean, I'm not going to make him pay for it.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Free beers?
My beer, guys, as mentioned earlier, is called The Fight in the Dog, referencing that famous expression that Moose, I'm still bewildered, has never heard. And it's
not big into dog fighting.
Okay.
Michael Vick.
Yeah, okay. It's from Souk Brewery. which is close by here. Souk's beautiful near here in Victoria, and it's the Scotch Ale. I don't know why the cool names. I guess I always end up having these Scotch ales.
Scotch ale is delicious.
Apparently, not only is it a famous expression, it's a famous Mark Twain expression. It's not the size of the dog in the fight; it's the size of the fight in the dog from Mark Twain. I never knew it was a Mark Twain expression, and it's 7% alcohol.
Nice.
It's delicious. Scotch ale brewed with a small amount of peated barley to lend a slight smoky finish, rounded out with a solid addition of Northern Brewer hops. Fighting the dog will be sure to impress, and it has. Anthony, what do you got?
I got a Newcastle. It's a brown ale imported from England, 4.7%.
Quite nice.
It's not one of my favorite English beers.
Dave
I mean,
used to be a big Newcastle fan.
I was on a big Newcastle kick for a while there. I love them. I still like them.
There's a few like awards that I think they've won, but
Worlds?
It's not.
Is there a Worlds?
Did they win World Beer Awards? Because then do we even bother?
No.
Moose's beer won Worlds, dude.
Yeah. So I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's good for
you have to
Sunday night. Are we Sunday? We're Sunday night.
It is Sunday. Yeah. I mean, you have to like that. It's a brown. It's a brown
ale.
Like
I'm not a big
ale.
brown ale guy. Like I'm okay with them. There's a time and place for them, but I'm more of an IPA guy these days.
Yeah. I don't think Newcastle thinking backs is could pair really nicely with a meal.
Yes.
But if you're down in several of them, yeah, not cream ales and brown ales. If you're having a bunch for football, not necessarily the go-to.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Okay, guys, I think that's about it. Any words of wisdom today?
I was out in the sun a lot. It was definitely more than 295 Kelvin. Had a hat on, had my sunscreen
your hat on. Yeah, okay.
It was bad, man. Black flies, man. It took a few chunks out of me for sure.
Well, because you're up in the cottage.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was very nice in Montreal. The morning didn't look very nice today, but it cleared up around noon. Hit some balls at the driving range. Felt great.
Nice. Good
reactivated some muscles that I forgot existed because of COVID. The arm is sore. Spent a lot of time in the sun. Took the longest nap today after, but feel great.
Good for you, Anthony.
That's what long weekends are for.
Yeah. Hitting balls,
having a couple bees,
long naps.
Long naps. Awesome. Well, I think that does it for this episode of the podcast. Please tune in to us on YouTube. As most of you know, we're also on YouTube.
Give us a subscribe.
Hit us a like. Yeah, give us the old thumbs up. And
click the bell so you get the updates of when we release the videos.
We're inching ever so closely, or not ever so close, but we're inching closer to fantasy football draft season. So please send us your feedback, your comments, your questions. You can find us at 3bfantasypod, gmail.com, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Also, maybe a listeners league.
Yep.
Oh,
if you're interested,
it going to happen. You let us know. And we'll see you on the next episode of the podcast when we'll wrap up our wide receiver rookie reviews. As always, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Ciao.